Alright guys, Randall Nichols back again with LCP Stat 10 tutorials. I want to try to cover a couple of things here in this brief tutorial. One, I want to go over the Sources tab you see here at the top of the item service list where we create an item. I also want to cover briefly the calculator. So let's start with Sources. Sources are essentially where you are obtaining the information for the cost of a particular item. So it's a difference in resources, and we'll talk about resources in depth in another video. Sources are basically where you're getting your information for price quotes and items or services that you are recommending for this life care plan. Okay, so sources for most of us, a lot of our sources can be now found on the internet. So to make that a little simpler, we have added this little web viewer. It's a built-in web browser inside of LCP Stat. It does require that you are connected to the internet, otherwise you won't be able to view any of the websites. However, if you are connected to the website, you can simply enter the web address. It does have to be a full web address. Remember, web addresses in your browser start with this little prefix http colon / www in most cases, and then the rest of the website. So you type that in, you hit the return key, and the web viewer will then load that particular website. So if you were to go to a particular website for a price quote on a particular item, you could type in that web address, hit the return key, it would load that web page, and then you go over here to the bookmark, give it a name, enter a description, and hit OK. And what that does is it adds it into the sources list. So here it is. I typed in the web address. It adds that for me. It asks me for the name. It asks me for a description. I add those on that little pop-up window. It includes those now in my sources list. This sources list can then be printed out and added to the report that you submit to the attorneys. Now, for those vendors who are brick and mortar only, or for those case managers in for example, who you wouldn't go online to find their rates, you would actually call them or talk to them, or information that you obtain from a physician, you can do the same thing by clicking on the web viewer, type in something simple like google.com, add it, and then type in Dr. Phillips, whatever it is that you are discussing with that particular doctor. When you go to sources now, you see Dr. Phillips, total knee replacement, and then you can change this to his contact information. You can add the address, 123 Main Street, New York, 12345. You can add a phone number. You can hit the return key. You could say 555 1234. This information now is going to print out with this contact information, the vendor or recommended, like the physician here, and the item that you are discussing. All that's going to print out in your sources. That's how you add items to your source list. So it can either be a web-based source, or it can be a source from brick and mortar, or from a person that you talk to for a referral. Got it? Awesome. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about briefly is this calculator. The calculator seems a little intimidating at first because it's not like a little desk calculator. What you're doing is you're creating a logical mathematical sentence. So let's take this particular item, and I know it's not exactly a perfect example, but I'll explain it along the way. As case manager, we've gotten a quote, $500 from one, $600 from another, an average of $550 for the case manager. We've said that we're only going to need this case manager one time, but we're going to divide that out over 10 years, the duration of the plan. Again, I said you can do your math however you want to do it, whatever makes the most sense to you. This is just how I've chosen to do it. So this is how I'm going to explain it. When I go into the per year cost calculator, I see now that I've got these sentences. So the unit cost, low cost, high cost. This is just one, so I'm going to say each. $550 would be the average per visit, and we're only going to need her one time. So I'm going to say times 1. Okay? I hit these. That's basically sending these figures through the sentence coming out on the other side. Now, I need to send it to the next line because I need to tell it that this is going to be divided over the 10 years of the plan. So I'm going to hit the arrow. It's going to send that figure to the second line, and then I'm going to say years because I want to divide it over the course of 10 years. And again, these items in these drop downs, they're all pre-populated. You don't have to make any adjustments to them. Years divided by 10, I send that figure, and you see that now my figures have changed from 500 and 600 to 50 and 60. So this is taking the cost of that case manager, dividing it out over the life of the plan, and I send that into my yearly cost, low, high, and that gives me the average. And now that information is included in the per year